The night shift was never supposed to be permanent. It was supposed to be a temporary sacrifice. Extra cash to get me through community college, a stepping stone until something better came along. Yet, 2 years later, I was still standing behind the same faded counter of the same 24-hour convenience store off Highway 17, pretending the buzzing fluorescent lights and the loneliness of 2 a.m. didn't eat away at me. The store sat at the edge of town where civilization thinned into forest, the kind of place GPS struggled to pinpoint. Most nights, business was slow. The occasional trucker, late, night snack runs, the odd teenager buying candy at hours they shouldn't be awake. The rest of the time, it was just me, the humming refrigerators, and the parking lot's flickering street lamp that blinked like a dying star. But some nights carried a weight to them, like the air itself knew something was coming. That night was one of them. I noticed the shift early. Around midnight, the atmosphere thickened. The road outside was too quiet. No passing cars, no distant engines, no stray dogs barking. Even the crickets, normally relentless, seemed to be holding their breath. It felt like the world outside the glass doors had hit pause, abandoning me in a bubble of artificial light and metallic silence. I tried distracting myself by restocking shelves, lined up candy bars, folded chips forward, organized energy drinks by color because boredom turns you into a strange person. The clock ticked with merciless slowness. 1:13 a.m. became 1:27 a.m., then 1:59 a.m. The hours weren't passing, they were stalking me. At 2:43 a.m., the power flickered once, nothing dramatic, just a half-second stutter, but enough to make the hairs on my arms rise. The registers rebooted with an electronic sigh. I chalked it up to unstable wiring. This place was older than the dirt it stood on. Then came 2:47 a.m. Normally, the entrance bell chimed even if a moth brushed the sensor. It was obnoxiously loud, the kind of jingle that could wake the dead. So when the glass door slowly opened in complete silence, I looked up instinctively, heart skipping like it had tripped. A man stepped inside. At first, he looked normal enough in silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a long coat. But the instant the door closed behind him, the details rushed in like cold water. His boots were the first thing I noticed, heavy leather soaked in mud. But not normal mud. This mud was darker, almost black, glossy like oil, thick enough that every step left a slow, viscous print on the white linoleum tiles. The sound of his footsteps was wrong too, wet, suction thuds, like each step clung to the floor before releasing. SCCCH, step, SCCCH, step. He didn't acknowledge me, didn't even look in my direction. His head was slightly lowered, like someone contemplating the ground, but there was a stiffness in his posture, rigid, deliberate, like a puppet learning a human stance. He moved toward the snack aisle not with urgency, but with calculated slowness, the kind of slow that makes you notice every muscle shift and joint movement. I gave the standard retail greeting, voice cracking despite my efforts. "Evening, let me know if you need anything." No response. He didn't even react. Most customers would glance, nod, grunt, something. But this man walked as if the world was background noise, and he was the main character alone on the stage. I forced myself to breathe and looked down at the counter, pretending to straighten the lottery tickets while guilt, glancing at him every few seconds. His coat was long, charcoal, colored, damp at the hem, as if he'd been wading through swampland. The smell followed a second later, earthy, metallic, rotting foliage mixed with rain, like an old riverbed disturbed after decades of stillness. I swallowed hard, mouth going dry. His pace slowed further as he reached the chip rack, stopping directly beneath the flickering aisle light. His head tilted upward ever so slightly, enough for me to catch a glimpse of his lower face, no expression, lips pale, too pale, almost gray, skin uneven in tone, faintly textured like the surface of dried clay. But it was his jaw that unsettled me, slightly too square, too rigid, like the proportions were approximations of a human face rather than the real thing. I rubbed my eyes and nearly laughed at myself. Get it together, I thought. Night shifts make shadows look like monsters, nothing more. Then he started to hum. A low, tuneless sound, no melody, no rhythm, just vibration, like someone mimicking human humming without understanding music. MMMMM, MMMMM, MMMMM. It resonated weirdly in my chest, a frequency that felt too low for a normal voice. Like it was echoing through bone, not air. I forced a polite tone, "Find in everything okay." The humming didn't stop. Didn't falter, didn't acknowledge the question at all. It just continued, steady and hollow. That's when a chill skated down my spine hard enough to make me shiver. I backed away from the counter slightly and glanced toward the security monitor mounted in the corner, mostly to ground myself, to confirm he was just another late night weirdo. When I saw the screen, my stomach dropped like an elevator cable snapping. The store was empty, not empty like no customers browsing, but empty like no living thing standing anywhere inside it. The aisles were clean, the lights steady, the floor untouched, no man, no movement. No mud, no presence at all. I blinked once, twice, a third time, my eyes shot back to the aisle. He was still there, clearly, undeniably there, shoulders slowly rising and falling with breath. Boots sinking wet imprints into the floor, humming like the world was his dark lullaby. But the camera showed nothing. A cold numbness crawled into my hands. I stepped toward the monitor, convinced it was glitching, maybe frozen. I tapped the glass. Live feed. The timestamp blinked correctly. The feed was active, but there was no him. My pulse hammered so loud in my ears it drowned the humming. I turned back toward the aisle. His head was now angled slightly in my direction. Not turned, just angled. Like he knew I had looked, the humming stopped. Sudden silence rang louder than any scream. Then, without warning, the store lights died completely. Pitch black, not the gentle dark where your eyes adjust. This was suffocating, sensory deprivation black, like someone threw a tarp over reality. My breath spiked into panic. The hum of the refrigerators stopped. The electronic buzz overhead vanished. The only sound now was my own heartbeat hammering against my ribs. Then a new sound, SCCCH. Step, SCCCH, step, slow, deliberate, closer. He was walking toward me. I fumbled for the flashlight I kept under the register. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped it twice before finally clicking it on. A sharp beam of LED tore through the darkness like a blade. The aisle was empty. No man, no mud trail, no boots, just the shelves, untouched and silent. A roaring static hiss filled my ears, that ringing sensation you get when adrenaline hits critical mass. I swung the beam left, right, behind the counter. Nothing. Then the lights snapped back on so fast I yelped. The store looked normal again. Bright, sterile, loud with electricity. Fridges whirred. The exit sign hummed red overhead. The silence from a moment ago felt like a hallucination. I gripped the counter to steady myself, chest heaving. That's when I saw the floor. Thick, wet, impossible boot prints trailing from the snack aisle. And leading directly behind the counter, my safe space, my 2 feet of separation between me and every stranger who ever walked in. The print stopped on my side. I looked down slowly. One final print, perfectly formed, sat mere inches from my shoe. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I called my boss, voice shaking so badly he thought I was drunk. He told me to sweep the floor, drink some water, and stop letting stories about the old highway tunnel get to my head. He didn't see the prints. He didn't smell the damp, metallic earth. He didn't hear the humming. The next week passed in a haze of exhaustion and skepticism. I tried convincing myself my brain had stitched shadows into nightmares. I tried to rewrite logic over fear. Still, every midnight, that hour of 2:47 a.m., rolled around like a death knell. On the 8th day, it happened again. But this time, he didn't show himself. He left something instead. I found it taped under the register, in a spot you'd only see if you crouched low enough to restock cigarettes. A small scrap of receipt paper, edges irregular, like torn by hand. No pen, no ink, Just 2 words written using smeared dirt. You saw me. The handwriting was crude, uneven, childlike in formation but terrifying in intent. The dirt used to write the letters matched the mud from the boots. Dark, thick, glossy. I scraped it into a bag and drove straight to the 24-hour police station, hands locked onto the wheel like a vice. The officer on duty listened half-heartedly, more interested in his cup of coffee than my unraveling sanity. He checked the note, shrugged, and said, "Looks like someone messing with you." I asked him to pull the security footage. He did. The camera showed exactly what it showed me that night. No man, no mud, no movement, just me staring at an empty aisle like someone losing a silent argument with reality. The store fired me a week later. Official reason: erratic behavior affecting work environment. Unofficial reason: I kept checking the cameras every 10 minutes and flinched at every shadow. No one likes an unreliable witness to something unexplainable. I never returned to night shifts again, but even now, years later, when 2:47 a.m. rolls around, I still hear humming in the soft places of silence, low, hollow, unfinished, like someone waiting for me to keep listening.